Hello and welcome to the Gym Academy podcast, your one stop shop for anything when it comes to learning about growing your gym. And joining me today is the one and only Josh Lynch.
One and only. There's probably more out there. Yeah, excited to be here and jam on all things gym and growing gyms and helping people get to that next level. I am one of the co-founders of Gym Academy, and just a little bit of background on me as a gym owner for 10 years, now a former gym owner, which feels good
Feels
sometimes.
nice. Feels nice.
Miss it sometimes. Just my personal, like I have 7 kids, so that's usually a novelty, and I was a police officer for 10 years back in the day. And Bob and I crossed paths to make well, not really a long story short. We decided to start Gym Academy, about 4 years ago to really help gym owners build freedom and really have a vehicle to build wealth and impact within like their day-to-day lives in their gym. So that's kind of my 1 minute spiel.
Your elevator pitch of how Gym Academy was born. I love it.
Yes, short and sweet. There's probably more to the story, but here we are.
I don't know. I kind of imagine you just met Bob and you're just like, let's see what happens. And then you just started running forward with it.
Pretty much how it happened. I'm a ready, fire, aim kind of guy. I don't know why that book's been on top of my mind recently, but yeah, the conversation was pretty short. We jammed on gym stuff and my gym at the time, and he was in the stages of not being as involved and wanting to grow where he was at. But I was also in a stage of life where I was like looking for something like the next thing. I had no desire at that point. After so many years in the business, you just kind of like wonder sometimes what's next. And at that point in my life and with kids, I was definitely questioning things in a good way. And we were at a men's mastermind. I think we were at a 7-Eleven parking lot in the middle of either Montana or Idaho on a road trip. And we were just riffing. And I was like, man, I don't know. I was like, sounds like we could solve some problems here. And he was like, all right, let's do it. And that was how it started. So yeah, it was pretty much like you said.
I love it. I mean, most of the best things in life happen just with two people who meet each other and you're just like, screw it, let's see where this goes. So, one of my favorite things about having you as, one of the founders and honestly a mentor for me, for anyone who doesn't know this, Josh is the one who sold me into the academy and how I become part of this whole thing. It's just kind of your mindset on things and how you kind of handle any kind of adversity or basically any kind of changes in life. So, kind of jam with me a little bit about how you decided you wanted to start your gym and kind of like the mindset shift you had between like, okay, I'm a cop, but I like this fitness thing, like that transition.
Yeah, I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur as I got older, and I may have explored some different things and not done so well, but I wanted to open a gym, and I actually fell in love with CrossFit, and that was kind of how it started, and really found a passion there. And really just told my wife one night, and this is a funny story, but she had never really been into fitness at all. Basically, it was like, hey, I want to open a gym. I kind of showed her what my plan was. It was atrocious, but the math made sense to me. I was like, I can make 10K a month. I can do this. And so I think a lot of the story, and then she was in, and that was really all that happened. It was, a couple credit cards later, and we were all in. I think a lot of the whole mindset stuff to tie it in comes from a place of having lived it and experienced it and probably had limiting beliefs and just realizing that everything is just a limiting belief because as you just watch and listen and experience, you just realize like, okay, like whatever I tell myself is the outcome, is the reality that I'm forming. So I think that that's kind of where it all came. And, at some point being a gym owner and finally learning how to grow it and developing skills, kind of fell in love with the business side of stuff and, marketing, sales, helping people and, eventually building a team, you realize like, wow, there's this thing that like, I don't have to do everything. And it was hard to let go. Again, another limiting belief. And, finally was like, okay, so what's next? Because like I kind of removed the ceilings from my head. And then at some point I had kept having kids. So I had a full-time job, had kids and was still doing it all. And so it's all possible, but had to choose. So I chose just the gym and then had to choose, do I keep doing this thing, by myself or with a small team? And eventually, took the next step there. And here we are years later. Yeah, I think having lived it is huge, and I'm surrounded by people who challenge things, question things, and have pushed me along the way too, which is great.
Yeah, I think if you haven't gone through what it's like to be a gym owner, it's next to impossible to experience it. Like, it's next to impossible to understand what it's like because it is a completely different industry. It's a passion based industry that you get in because you want to help people, but you still need all the business aspects to make it work. But you're never equipped for any of that because you think, I'm just going to make this gym and I love fitness. So everyone's going to love fitness. And then no one shows up. And it's this whole like circle spiral. Not that I want to touch on the most is the fact that what keeping you move forward is the fact that you did keep breaking those limiting beliefs. So how do you identify a limiting belief? And two, what have you used to help you like break through those?
Grit and determination, and honestly, someone who's ahead of me, who doesn't have that. And, you quickly realize as you do this a long time and you maybe put people on pedestals in life, you realize we're all just humans. And it's kind of interesting as you explore that. But I'd say, honestly, it's for me, it was a lot of experience it. And so, like, I can relate so well to where people are saying things. But the moment they tell me something, they'll immediately give me a but, which just tells me that, like, they have a limiting belief. So it's just like, honestly, the truly listening, like, listening with the intention to understand. And most of the time, people are listening to ignore or agree or respond, and they're not actually truly listening to understand what someone's saying. And so it's like you start working through these things, and I probably enjoy having philosophical conversations, which may lead to a lot of these things. So I think that that's just like a fun hobby. So I always enjoy things like this. But yeah, for me, a lot of it was experience. I actually didn't know what was possible. That was like the first thing. I actually was ignorant. And then like you break through it and it's just like, okay. And then then you have this new thing where it's like, well, I have to do everything. Right. And it's like, well, no, I don't. Like, why am I thinking this? So now my belief is that there's always somebody way better than me at everything. And so, and I, I found that to be very true. And it's probably the best place to be. Yeah, most people tell you without telling you. Their words don't match their actions, which tells you they have something that's holding them back. And that can go deep. That can be subconscious. That can be all these other things. So I like to uncover those things. So I think that that's one thing I definitely enjoy.
I like that you mentioned people will tell you like something they're dealing with, but it's always followed with a but. Like this happened, but it's because I used to have this saying that I said all the time. And I said it in fitness and I said it in life. And it was progress happens when you fix the butt. In fitness, if your hips aren't working right, you're going to have injuries. In business and in life, whatever you say, I would love to do this, but fix whatever happens after that and you're going to be okay.
Tell people just stop talking. Like, don't even finish your sentence. Like, why do you think? Again, it's just like understanding why, but it's normal. It's human behavior. If you think about just how, well, we can go down rabbit holes, but how we're programmed, it's just been passed down from generation to generation, and those beliefs carry over. Everyone tells entrepreneurs they're going to fail. It's very rare you find someone who told them they were going to succeed. So again, same thing. The sum of the five people you spend the most time around is one of the most powerful things. And so if you have people limiting what you think is possible or restricting what you should do because of their belief, it's going to carry over to you. There's really no way to avoid it. So there's a lot of things you have to be careful of in life when it comes to that. And so it's why you find the most successful people, they're usually putting themselves around people who are more successful than them because it's a new level that they get to go to because it is a game in the end. It's funny in this world, we could just literally hit the reset. I don't know why anyone's scared because you can just start all over. I mean, yeah, you don't get to pass go, you don't get $200. You do have to start all over, but you literally can. That's why your skills and everything's the most valuable asset to yourself.
Even with that though, like you're not even starting like, yeah, you'll hit the reset button. But unlike in Monopoly, you clear the board and you have nothing. You have all the skills that you acquired before you hit the reset button. Now,
For this time, you should have bought the
exactly.
real estate.
You know the rules now. I
Well,
think
that's
that's
why
one.
they say if a millionaire ever goes broke, they're right back there in like a year or two or something. And now they're even more nothing to allow them to stop from getting there. So I think that it's fascinating that beliefs is everything because it's the first step to taking action, which is where most people never do.
Yes, I definitely believe, and I've taken this one step farther of I firmly believe that if we can just break everything down into the actions, not the feelings, not the emotions, not even the outcomes, but literally the actions that are being presented to us, it makes the trajectory of getting whatever you want out of life so much easier. Because it's no longer like, well, I need to believe I can do this. I don't need to believe I can do anything. Well, obviously beliefs are important, but I don't need to believe can do it. I just need to believe that I can take the actions required to take the next steps to do this.
Yeah. You're gonna learn, you're gonna deviate, and that's the beauty of it is we course correct naturally. We start by being born and falling down and not being able to say a word, and we figure it out. Like, we will figure it out. And so most people don't do anything, which is tied to their beliefs, leads them to this road of like, why is my business like this? Maybe it's my market, maybe it's this. And then we have a victim mentality, which leads to this whole other realm of, just self-sabotage effectively.
Then it becomes everyone else's problem, not yours. I am kind of curious. Whenever it comes, we're kind of talking about actions and things we should be taking step forwards on. I kind of want to get your input on this. So one thing that I've noticed in myself and multiple others, especially in the gym industry, is trying to figure out what is just a shiny, pretty object that we're doing and what is like a limiting belief stopping us from moving forward. So for example, you're presented with two options. How do you decide which one you should move forward on and which one you should, it's just a shiny object, so I shouldn't deal with this right now?
Well, I mean, there could be a level of discernment and you may or may not know. So you'll learn regardless of whatever action you choose, and you can learn fast. And so it's the ability to pivot based on the results. And so I think one big thing I hear, a lot of people don't actually have clear goals and clear outcomes. And so it's hard to make a decision when you don't know where you want to go. And so if you actually are looking at the wrong thing, then everything is, something that's going to scare you or something that's going to do this. But there's no real wrong answer as long as you take action. Going back to what you were saying is because you're going to learn from that. It's usually obvious. Someone's like, "Oh, I'm not growing." I'm like, "Well, okay, well, how many leads do you get?" And they're like 20. I'm like, "Why do you think you're not growing?" And so it's just like they already know the answer a lot of times. They just don't know what next step to take, which is the whole idea of like Gym Academy and the whole idea of like someone hiring a trainer is like they need that clear next step and that clear direction. As long as they're the one who's willing to do and they're willing to be uncomfortable, it's always right in front of you. And like most people aren't actually seeking the outcome. So the way their brain's wired isn't looking. Most people are looking because they're looking at the world as a means of being like it's like needs and wants. Like there's a scarcity mindset tied to it versus an opportunity mindset. People will take the path of least resistance. So I'm just tying in a bunch of mindset stuff to it all.
I love it. I think, that's one thing. This has been a weird belief of mine forever, and it's been hit or miss on whether it actually helps, so I'm hesitant to share it. But
We
whenever I'm
have to.
presented with, like, yeah, I've already started. I started it. I unlocked the box here. Whenever I'm presented with, like, 2 choices, I always pick, because I found in life, the hardest thing is typically the thing I need to do. So if I'm presented with 2 options, I literally always pick the hardest one. So whichever one sounds like it would be the hardest and I have the most, like, hesitancy around, at least it's like, I experienced this in the past. This is a red flag. I know I shouldn't do this. If I don't have any context like that, I pick the hardest one because in my mind, the reason that's the hardest one is because I somewhere down in my brain or my soul, wherever we keep these beliefs, think that I can't do this or this is going to be super challenging for me. So I just go with the hardest one, and normally the outcome of that is I either learn really quickly or I get the best outcome out of it because I've learned a new skill or I've overcame a belief that I priorly had.
Yeah, so there's that saying, and I've stolen this from somebody. Who knows who said it? But the magic you're seeking is in the things you're avoiding. And it sounds like you've made a conscious decision, which most people don't make, to like choose the harder path because it's going to be the more rewarding one. It's again going back to fitness, and that's just such the beauty of fitness and business is you're not going to get in shape by taking the easy path. And your business isn't going to thrive by taking the easy path. I mean, if you get lucky and it's easy, let's go. Like that's amazing, and there's nothing wrong with that. And we all get lucky on some level because luck definitely plays a role, but you can control most variables.
I
So I don't know if that's a bad decision of yours. It sounds like it's a good conscious decision based on your past experiences. Maybe it's something that like you maybe took a path of least resistant path and it did not work out well. So now maybe you did. I don't know. You'd have to share that.
It just ends up being a boring story. Like no one wants to hear the story of the guy who was like, "Yeah, I found this get rich quick thing," and I said, "Sure, why not?" And I did it, and I got rich. Neat. Which 9 out
No,
of 10
I
times
think
doesn't
that
work anyway.
that
But
there's plenty of people have taken those opportunities and it works because there's usually a path to follow. It's like there's nothing new under the sun. It's just different versions and different, skill sets.
yeah, but I definitely would rather. Perfect example is you're telling me a story of how you were in between buildings or something along those lines. I'll let you share the story. But you had to sell out of like this ran down building and you still made it happen anyway. While there's some people with these like multi-thousand-dollar build outs who are scared to bring anyone in and sell. That's kind of the what I'm referring to is like you still did it anyway.
Well, there's also the options in life where you don't have choices, right? So part of my life has just been, always pushing forward, but also like I just never I let it be a fun adventure. And that's the frame I took. And that's the frame I took with me when I was meeting with people. And yeah, we had nothing. So we didn't have a toilet. We had nothing. It was a vacant building and it was, transition, but then we transitioned a lot longer than we thought. But I sold the vision and it didn't change the results we could give. So I just had to tell people, like, I promise you're not going to be murdered here. I know it looks crazy, but it's okay. Come on in, we'll chat. And, I'm sure it scared some people away, but no, the business was thriving. And yeah, it's interesting. People want perfection in too many things. And, if you've been in business and had success, there's no such thing. And I think that that's another big factor that holds a lot of people back because it's just never going to be perfect. And if you're growing, it is definitely never going to be perfect. People dream it up that they have both, but there's always something that can be improved.
Yeah, I made a post about this the other day along those lines. Like, I'm always been gonna start messy and then kind of fix it as you go kind of guy. But there's always problems in your business, and it's just trying to figure out which ones are actual bottlenecks and actual limitations, and which ones just kind of need to burn. There's always going to be something that could be better, and sometimes you just need to leave it a good enough and fix the things that's actually constraints.
If you're solving, that's the biggest thing with like getting help is solving the right constraint because there's a thousand things you could do. There's only one or two you need to do. And it goes back to like busy and productive are different. If you own a business, you can be busy all day long, but if the business isn't growing, are you productive? Again, it goes back to the outcome though. I mean, maybe you are if you don't want to grow, but I always tell people chase the outcome. The rest will figure itself out.
I think the one of the holdups I've seen a lot lately is there's such a big, I think they call it hustle culture, I think is what it's called. Like, basically there's so much like praise being put on just working really, really hard. And don't get me wrong, working really hard is super important. But it's almost gotten to the point where working hard, like just constantly doing something is the goal you're chasing, regardless of like the outcome of like making productivity. Like, I literally had a conversation with someone the other day, and their whole stance they were taking was they were so proud of how many hours they were working and how they woke up at this time. And then they woke up at like 5 a.m. and they worked for until like 9 p.m. and they're so proud of that. And the next person was like, well, I woke up at 3 a.m. and worked until 9 p.m. It's just doing the work and bragging about how many hours you put in was like the goal versus like my goal is to grow my business and I'm going to do anything it takes to grow the business, even if that means like delegating workout or working less hours or things along those lines.
Yeah, it sounds like there's no clear goal. Man, I would love to brag about working less.
Me too.
That should be that should be the goal of everybody.
Hmm.
Which if you want to own a business and you want to be an entrepreneur, I think it'd be awesome to just be an investor, right? I mean, what a great opportunity. But yeah, it's one of those things I think we also get comfortable in our day to day. And so it's like you always have to keep getting uncomfortable. So it's maybe comfortable to work 12 hours, but it's what they're used to and where they're going. So it's really interesting. I always ask people their goals. It's an interesting conversation. It's usually a short conversation,
With very little detail on what that actually means for them.
and you wonder why, right? It's like, and why aren't we there? I just had a conversation with someone, and he's interested in building a business online, and kind of questioning things and asking all these questions, and like as if like he was already there. And I was like, well, how many clients do you have? It's like zero. I'm like, well, what do you mean? You've been talking about this for the last 4 or 5 years. Why haven't you done anything? He's like, well, I don't know how. And it's like, do you really want this outcome? Because like to me, the disconnect is so strong that like you're thinking about this. This isn't actually the outcome you want because the outcome you want, there's nothing else to talk about. You would have already started. Well, humans are fascinating, and I say that with massive humility.
I think once you've gotten to the point where you can really take a step back and look at just like how flawed all of us are, like this isn't like an egotistical talking. I'm just as flawed, just how flawed we are at like saying the things we want versus the actions we take to get them, or how we kind of perceive what we're doing in relation to the outcomes we're trying to do. Like, there's been several times in my life alone where I'll think that I'm working my butt off trying to get to this particular point in my life or get to this particular goal. And everything that I'm doing is doing nothing but like making me spin tires and not moving me closer to that goal. And until you like get away from it or you have someone else's perspective, you truly think you're doing everything right because you don't know any other way. Like, your brain just doesn't allow you to see that you're not going where you want to go, even though it's clearly right in front of you.
No, it is. And then, well, most people don't reflect on that. And most people don't have someone to help them reflect on that. And most people live their life through the lens of fear. It's always the worst case scenario. Like, it goes back to it's either an opportunity or it's something that's just going to scare you away. You got two paths, and faith and fear is all you got.
I actually use the fear one a lot. Kinda like, I'll play out the worst case scenario because I suck at, like, positive outcomes. Like, I'm very bad at thinking, like, "This could go here, and it could be amazing," but I'm very good at being like, "This could go here, and it could be awful." So, I'll play that out, and I'll use that as kinda deciding factor too. Like, if I make this decision, what is the worst thing that could happen? Well, I might look like a failure, my friends might make fun of me a little bit, and I might lose, like, X amount of money doing this. Okay, well, that's the worst case scenario. I'll still have food, I'll still have shelter, and I'll still have people who care about me, even though they might make fun of me a little bit. Cool. Worst case scenario is fine. I can live with that. Let's try this.
So it goes back to the man in the arena quote, right? And I love that quote. I actually I've got it in an Amazon tab that I want to put on the wall behind me. But it's a good reminder. I just think for entrepreneurs, but people are going to judge you and they're going to do all these things, especially if you get even bigger. And it's just part of it. But it's just it's same thing as like if you're worried about anybody else and what they think, and honestly, no one's actually thinking about you. Right? I mean, like, no one really cares what you're truly doing outside of your mom, your dad, and your spouse or your significant other. So it's definitely funny how so many external factors decide our life and we have one to live. And so hopefully people will give themselves permission to live that and serve their purpose, whatever that may be. But yeah, you will be judged, but there's only one judge.
And permission to get it wrong too. And just like I was saying before, no one wants to hear the story of the guy who just went to instant success, like the trust fund kid that was just born wealthy, like the guy like David and Goliath. Like all these stories are people going through all of these hardships, learning these lessons, and then coming out the other side. Don't be afraid to fail. That's one thing I would say out of everything that I've done in business, the only thing that's kept me going forward and moving pretty quickly is the fact that I've never really been scared of failing. I've always looked at like, this is the absolute worst case scenario. Can I deal with it? Cool. And sometimes I've been dead wrong. The worst case scenario was way worse, but I still took that
You're
leap
still
and I learned a lot.
you're still and you're still here.
Exactly.
No, I think the worst case scenario is regretting not having done something because you got to go back. You got to go to the future, right? It's like, so if I did this for the next 30 years, would I be fulfilled? And that was the question I was asking myself, and it was never a good answer. So, like, there's always a new season and things change, and there's no right or wrong. You know, it could be having a business or not having a business, could be growing it or, just getting rid of it. But man, I tell you what, complacency is brutal. I don't know what's worse. And if you talk to the average entrepreneur, like that's the thing that kills them. It's a tough place to be.
That's typically also when you start playing complacency or not knowing how to beat like whatever major challenge I'm facing right now is typically when my brain starts wandering and trying to find something new to do. And that can be a pretty dangerous path. Like there's so many spots in business where you reach a point plateau, you're pretty content, you're pretty like, for example, most gym owners like that 10, 20K mark, you start bringing in that kind of money. And you're like, I'm good. I don't need to do anything else, which is fine. If that's your level, that's absolutely awesome. But now you have a choice. Are you going to stay here? Are you going to push through it and like break the next level? Because there are next levels. We have people in the academy that make 100 a month, which is crazy to me. I'm nowhere near that, but that's because they broke that barrier and they decided to lean into it. And then there's some people like you, for example, decided you wanted to pivot and go into a different field altogether and help other people. I'm always curious, like from your standpoint, how did you make that decision of like, I want to fulfill this path versus like, I'm going to buckle down and break this plateau that I'm at in my current business?
Yeah, I think the first thing was like removing myself, which was not very complicated. We can make it to be pretty complicated, but if you know how to do it, then you just have to show someone else how to do it. It's not very complicated. You just got to find, if you have the process, you just need to find the right person. And I've been super fortunate to find those people pretty naturally, I guess. I looked to the future and I was like, I just don't see myself doing this in 5 years. So if I don't see myself doing it in 5 years, I won't be happy. What's next? And I mean, it's the squirrel syndrome in me. Like always that part of us who's like, what else can I do? What else is next? Right. Kind of like what you were talking about. But it was just not going to happen. I was done. There was just had to be a new season. So I had no idea what that was going to be. Like actually zero. I had literally no idea. I think at one point we were going to get an RV, which was pretty close to happening. Well, we had one. We were going to travel the US. That was actually the plan prior to all this, and was actually still the plan in the beginning stages of this. But life changes and you have more babies in my circumstance, lots of more babies.
Lots, lots.
And in that case, it changed. But like, it's not, for me, it was like, I just no longer wanted to be on the path I was on. And it wasn't that I didn't enjoy things, but it's a new season. So that's kind of where I was at. I get kind of like complacency is tough, and so for me, I felt like a shift would have been the best thing for me not to stay complacent, and that's probably because like my life requires some level of stability because I have to be a dad, and that's going to be more important. That requires more. That's more important than anything else, overall too.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Basically, you made the decision that this wasn't for you and you're going to move on from it, which a lot of people have a hard time accepting too. I think we put so much of our identity into whatever it is we're doing. Like trying to separate what we do versus who we are is a kind of hard thing to do. Like, for example, trying to explain who Josh is without explaining that he works for Gym Academy. He's a hardworking dad. Like, it's very difficult. So, making that separation can be a hard thing going into a
We
different path.
put our identity, in my opinion, a lot of times in the wrong and very worldly things. So I think like being able to like detach yourself from that, and you are your own unique person, and that's awesome. And like I think that that's like the most special thing there is. But no, I think it goes back to it's just that level of comfort. Most people want to be comfortable. It's just how they've lived their whole life. I would challenge people to get uncomfortable with whatever that thing is in life, whether it's business or personal, and live it. I mean, you have no idea what's in store. It's a good reminder for me too, because there's always times we all fall back to what is normal, and normal is safe. So it's okay to take. I'm not talking about jumping off any buildings, and although I would like to go skydiving one day.
So,
Still
literally,
on my
you
list.
are.
I'd love to. I haven't. It's a lot of logistics I got to put in place to to take a day.
Yeah. So, basically back to the choosing the harder path. Most of the time works out for you.
Always works out. Just the outcome may not be what you expected.
I think, yeah, 100%. And then 9 out of 10 times it never was. We talked on something before we get off here because I know we're pushing the envelope on hopping off here. One thing we mentioned earlier on was picking the people you spend the time with. They help you break the limiting beliefs and stuff like that. How did you first start finding rooms to be in with people who thought bigger than you did currently?
Coaching programs, consulting programs. I'm super fortunate with my wife who pushes me and doesn't have a lot of limiting beliefs. So, her beliefs are about as high as you can get, but she's got big goals. And so I think that that's been a big part of it. But yeah, you just put yourself with people who are where you want to be, and so it rubs off. There's no other way to avoid it. Like, because it's just they're like, what do you wouldn't even share the limiting belief you have typically. You just say like, okay, that's how you do it. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And then like they have so much conviction and belief that you just blindly follow. This is how cults start, right? If someone just has conviction and belief and you're just like, this person believes I need purpose. I need to find something. And like, there it goes. So it's amazing what those beliefs do. It literally people will follow no matter what. So yeah, if everyone's negative around you, like you better believe you're probably a pretty negative person.
Yeah, that's 100%. That's a danger trap that we won't even get into that because it's a whole tangent. But negativity breeds negativity for sure. For me, coaching programs have been absolutely vital. And one of the probably the most important things that I've ever done in my life was joining coaching programs. And the way I found my first one was literally I was listening to Tony Robbins and he's like, everyone needs to get a mentor. Everyone needs to like be a part of a mastermind. And I had just started my gym. COVID had just happened. I was like, okay, cool. So I Googled the gym mastermind and just signed up for the first one I found. I was like, he said I needed to do this. I was hoping you had a little bit more like tangible of how you researched it because mine was just like, cool.
No, it kind of it found us through marketing, and it was I didn't believe it. I was like, "Hey, you can get to $1 million gym," because I'm sitting here being like, "My goal is 10K." I'm like, "No way you can get to like doing 80K months, 100K months." I'm like, "That's freaking bonkers!" Like, there's no way. So I'm in my mind, like again, another limiting belief, only because I didn't know. And so like yeah, it's actually a funny story, but, like, I didn't know. So, like, once the belief changed, and which happened to me through action, right? Same for you. Like, you took action, and then it's like, yeah, I've been in good programs, I've been in not great programs, and I don't care about like, bad programs are just as good as great ones because it's just part of the growth and the stage and learning, and now you know how to make better decisions, and it's just part of it.
Yeah. I think being able to accept that even with the bad programs, you can still learn and that makes it a great program because now you at least know what not to do, which is almost, or if not better than knowing what to do. So we are
Exactly.
crunched on time here, so I'm gonna end with the same question that I ask everyone when they come on the show. What is one thing you wish you knew sooner when it comes to business?
Well, we'll talk about the gym business, but I mean, you're in a marketing and like business has a lot to do with marketing and sales, and so many people see it as a fitness business, but that's only this. It's only funny enough a small part of the business side. So you need to really understand like how to acquire customers and ultimately like how you're going to do that consistently. And so for me, like that was the piece I fell in love with. That was the thing I didn't understand, and that was like the missing kind of component. I just kind of assume like I mean it's I have a website, I have these things like I mean I'm doing the basics like why not? Yeah, and then obviously like just knowing that like whatever you want to achieve is possible. It's just we don't know how long it's going to take to get there, but you have to take the actions to actually get there.
Solid advice. I love it. Thank you so much for joining me, Josh. We'll definitely have you on here in the future, and I can't wait to see what else happens next.
Look forward to it.